information about fractions. Fractions are they are one of those aspects of people that we all struggle with. Until you get really good at them, you can do a lot with them. And people are afraid of them because it's like they have a lot of rules involved. Yes, they do, but they're actually not that bad. So I'm trying to get people away from using their calculators and cell phones to get the answer, but fractions, you can do them by hand and also in your head. So let's go over some basic fractions and let's see the process here. So fraction means it's a part of a whole. You have a part over a whole. So it's kind of having a part divided by the whole. And what that means, let's say you take 1/2. Well, 1 over half of something. So there's addition. There's addition. So when you're adding fractions, you want what we call a common denominator. You want a common denominator. I think there's an I in there. And you want to have them add up. So let's try a couple here for addition. What if we had 1/2 plus 1/2? So let's take an example of 1/2 plus 1/2. We know what 1/2 of a 1/2 is. Well, since these have both the same denominators, that's going to come over here. And you're going to say, well, what's 1 plus 1? Which is 2, which is 1 whole. So since they have the same denominator, you can go ahead and add them across. So let's do something like this. Another example. Well, what if we had 1/3 plus 1/2? Well, these are not common denominators anymore. So you can't just, like this one, add them across. So this one has different denominators. So how I do this, and maybe some people have other tricks as well, I think of a method called the butterfly method. Now the butterfly method is like that. I call it the butterfly. Butterfly. Remember, butterfly goes something like this, and they had like a butt. So let's take this here and go 3 times 1. What's 3 times 1? Well, we have 3. And then we're going to call that an antenna of the butterfly. And then we're going to say, well, what about 2 times 1? So we'll take this denominator times this numerator and go 2 times 1 is 2. And that's another antenna. Well then, remember, we're still adding these because we're still adding fractions. Well, how do you get a common denominator? Well, we're going to take this denominator and we're going to multiply them. So that gives you what? 6. So now you have a common denominator. So what we're going to do is take 2 plus 3. Well, what is 2 plus 3? Is 5. Divided by the common denominator is 6. So this right here is that old fraction. So let's do another example. Let's say that we had 3/4 plus 1/5 of something, and we wanted to find out how do you add these together. So if we take these two and go 5 times 3, which is 15, and 4 times 1, which is 4, and add those together, you get 20, what, 21? No, not 21, 19. Wow, 19. And then what is 4 times 5? The butt. You can call this the butt of the butterfly, in a way. So they get the common denominator, which is 20. So that's 20. So there's your number there. So this is called the butterfly method. This is one of the methods to add fractions. You can also do this method to subtract fractions. Let's do one of those. So let's do something with subtraction. So let's subtract here. we're going to say, well, what's 1/3 minus 1/2? So we're going to use the same method called the butterfly method and say, well, if we take this here and go 3, that's the antenna. And if we take this number here and go 2 times 1 is 2, we're still subtracting. And then we're going to say, well, how do you get a common denominator? Well, that's 2 times 3, which is 6. So now this is going to equal 6. Well, what's 2 minus 3? It's -1. So this is actually going to be -1 instead. Now you can check this on the calculator, but really I'm trying to get you away from them, and I want you to kind of do them by hand a little bit. So that's also subtraction. So you're only doing the butterfly method, when you have addition and subtraction. So let's do a multiplication one now. So multiplication is a little bit easier. So multiplication. So here we go. Here's an example. Let's do 3/4 times 1/5. Now you can have a common denominator here. That's fine. You don't need it. If these two denominators could be the same, fine. Nothing, doesn't matter. So since this is multiplication, all you have to do is just multiply across. Multiply across. So 3 times 1, which is 3. 4 times 5, which is 20. That's it. You just multiply straight across. You don't have to do any common denominators, nothing. So let's do another example here. What if we had another example of 3/4 times 1? Let's try 1/4. Let's do a common denominator. Well, we don't need to worry about that. We can just multiply straight across. You don't need to look for a common denominator at all. So we're going to say, well, 3 times 1, which is 3. 4 times 4, which is 16. And that's all you have to do. So let's look at something, a division. Division one is a little bit more complicated, but there's one thing, all you have to do to it and you're done. So let's look at division now. Division. So let's look at an example here. We have, let's see, 3/4 divided by 1/2. So what kind of do here? Since, remember, these don't need to be the same at all. So we're going to say, well, how are we going to do this? Here's the trick. You're going to take this second fraction and you're going to flip it. So you're going to do kind of like a flip like that of this. You're going to keep the number the same. And we're going to flip this one as 2/1. So we're going to flip this over there. But here's the thing you have to kind of remember. When you do a division and we do this flip, multiply. It turns into a multiplication. So now we can just multiply straight across, just like we did here. So 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. And you can also reduce this. I'm not worried about reducing that right now. The point is that I want you to get the ideas down. We can do that later. So let's do a couple more examples of this one. So let's do example. Let's take, I don't know, 1/6 divided by 1/3. Divided it now. So here's the trick. Take the second fraction, do a flip. So this is going to be 1/6 multiply 3/1. So do a flip and change the sign to a multiplication. So then we have 1 times 3 is 3. 6 times 1 is 6. And 3/6, which is just 1/2. You can reduce that if you want. So that hopefully was something very useful for you. If you have questions on this, please comment below. I hope you kind of got what fractions are, and please try to do these as much as possible by your hands or in your head. And remember the certain ways of, especially the division, how to do this, because this has one extra step that you need to focus on, but it's not that bad. So I hope this helped. continue. I will have some more videos to look for. So please comment below and subscribe if you can, and it'd be great. Thank you.